In this chapter, we delve into Seneca's profound insights on the value of suffering and how it plays a crucial role in shaping our character and resilience. Seneca, a Stoic philosopher, believed that life's hardships are not obstacles to be feared, but rather opportunities for growth and self-improvement. He famously compared life to a theatrical play, where the quality of one's performance matters far more than the length of time spent on stage. This metaphor reminds us that it is not the number of years we live that defines the value of our existence, but how we live those years. Excellence in character and virtue, according to Seneca, is what gives life meaning. This understanding is particularly relevant in times of suffering. Seneca argued that adversity is an essential part of life. Much like a gem cannot be polished without friction, a person cannot reach their fullest potential without enduring trials. Suffering, in this sense, is a tool of refinement. It forces us to confront our weaknesses and develop resilience, turning us into stronger and more capable individuals. Seneca saw these challenges as integral to personal growth and self-mastery. One of his most powerful lessons on suffering is the idea that sometimes, just living itself requires immense courage. In moments of great hardship, when everything seems unbearable, the very act of continuing to exist and face another day can be an act of bravery. This notion resonates deeply with those who face chronic struggles, whether they be physical, emotional, or existential. Seneca's wisdom encourages us to view our pain not as something to be avoided, but as something to be confronted with courage and a calm mind. Additionally, Seneca emphasized the importance of maintaining equanimity in the face of adversity. To bear trials with a calm mind, he suggested, robs misfortune of its strength and its power to burden us. It is not the events themselves that cause us pain, but our reaction to them. By controlling our response and keeping a steady, peaceful mind, we diminish the impact of suffering on our lives. This practice of emotional restraint, or apatheia, is central to Stoic thought and is a key factor in overcoming life's inevitable challenges. Through these teachings, Seneca invites us to reconsider our perspective on suffering. Rather than seeing it as something inherently negative, we can recognize it as a catalyst for developing inner strength, wisdom, and fortitude. Life's hardships are, in fact, opportunities to grow, refine our character, and strengthen our resolve. Thus, the lessons on suffering that Seneca imparts are timeless. They remind us that adversity, while painful, is necessary for personal transformation. By embracing suffering with courage, equanimity, and a mindset of self-improvement, we can turn our trials into triumphs, ensuring that the play of our life is one of excellence, no matter how short or long it may be. In this chapter, we explore one of Seneca's most enduring philosophical principles, the importance of living fully in the present moment. For Seneca, the ability to appreciate the present is not just a fleeting mindfulness exercise, but a core principle of how one should live a meaningful and fulfilling life. He believed that much of human suffering comes from our failure to live in the now. We are either consumed by regret over the past or by anxiety about the future. This distraction prevents us from experiencing life as it happens. Seneca warned against the dangers of fixating on the future, stating that the mind that is anxious about what is to come is miserable. In modern terms, we might call this future anxiety, a constant state of unease where one is perpetually worried about the next event, the next opportunity, or the next possible failure. Seneca believed this fixation robbed people of their peace and joy, as they become so concerned with potential outcomes that they lose sight of the present moment, which is the only moment we truly possess. One of his most famous lines encapsulates this idea: life, if well lived, is long enough. With this, Seneca teaches that the length of life is irrelevant if we do not live it properly. Many people, he observed, waste their time in pursuits that add little to their overall happiness or well-being, distracted by trivial matters or societal expectations. The key to living well is not in extending the years, but in making the most of each moment we are given. Life is short, but the experience of time can be vast if it is filled with purpose and mindful engagement. He also emphasized that life is often short and anxious for those who forget the past, neglect the present, and fear the future. According to Seneca, people who live without reflection or intentionality are in a constant state of rushing towards something elusive, failing to grasp that the present moment is all they truly have. This sense of urgency, he argues, leads to a deep sense of dissatisfaction because it's rooted in the mistaken belief that contentment lies somewhere in the future, rather than in the present. Seneca's philosophy invites us to shift our mindset, to realize that happiness and fulfillment are not found in external circumstances or future achievements, but in how we engage with life right now. He suggests that if we can train ourselves to focus on the present, we will find greater joy and peace. This doesn't mean that we shouldn't plan or prepare for the future, but rather, we shouldn't allow future concerns to dominate our thoughts or diminish our appreciation of the present. One of Seneca's key ideas in this context is that time is our most valuable resource, and yet it is often squandered. People treat time as if it is infinite, always assuming that there will be more of it later. But Seneca challenges this assumption by reminding us that life is fleeting, and the only time that is truly ours is the present. Everything else, the past and the future, exists outside of our control. Therefore, living fully in the moment is the only way to truly live. Furthermore, Seneca connects this concept to the idea of contentment. He teaches that those who constantly pursue what lies ahead, or who are perpetually dissatisfied with their current situation, will never find peace. On the other hand, those who can find joy and contentment in the present moment, regardless of their circumstances, are the ones who live with true wealth. This wealth is not material but emotional and spiritual, rooted in the ability to appreciate life as it is, rather than always yearning for more. Seneca's emphasis on the present moment is also tied to his broader Stoic philosophy, which encourages detachment from things beyond our control. The future, after all, is uncertain and unpredictable. No amount of planning can guarantee specific outcomes, so wasting mental energy on trying to control it is futile. Instead, Stoicism teaches that we should focus on what is within our power, our thoughts, actions, and how we respond to the circumstances of the present moment. In conclusion, Seneca's lesson on living in the present is a call to mindfulness and intentionality. He urges us to stop squandering our time in distractions and future anxieties, and to fully engage with the only thing we truly possess, the now. By doing so, we can experience a deeper sense of fulfillment and clarity, free from the mental traps of regret and worry. Life may be short, but if lived with awareness and purpose, it can be rich and full, offering all the contentment we seek. In this chapter, we delve into one of Seneca's central teachings, the importance of wisdom and self-control as pillars of a virtuous and meaningful life. For Seneca, and Stoic philosophy in general, self-mastery is essential not only for living well but for achieving true inner peace. He believed that the greatest power anyone can possess is the ability to control themselves, their desires, emotions, and reactions to external events. This chapter explores how Seneca viewed wisdom and self-control as the ultimate form of power. Seneca asserted that no evil propensity of the human heart is so strong that it cannot be overcome through discipline. This speaks to his belief that self-control is a skill that can be developed over time. We are not born perfectly disciplined or wise, but through consistent effort, we can cultivate the inner strength to resist temptations and manage our emotions. The ability to govern oneself, according to Seneca, is what separates the wise from the foolish. Those who lack discipline are often at the mercy of their impulses, while those who possess self-control can navigate life's challenges with clarity and composure. A key aspect of Seneca's philosophy is the understanding that our external circumstances do not dictate our happiness, rather, it is how we choose to react to them that matters. Seneca believed that the wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be. This doesn't mean resigning to fate in a passive way but understanding that many things in life are beyond our control. What remains firmly in our control is our internal state, our thoughts, beliefs, and responses to what happens around us. By mastering these, we can remain composed and grounded, even in the face of adversity. This philosophy is deeply intertwined with the concept of apatheia, which in Stoic terms refers to freedom from the passions. Passion, in this context, is not merely emotions, but extreme emotional responses that cloud our judgment, such as anger, fear, or greed. Seneca argued that emotions, when unchecked, can become destructive forces. For example, he viewed anger as particularly dangerous, warning that anger, if not restrained, often causes more harm to the person feeling it than to the one who provoked it. By practicing self-control, we are able to make decisions based on reason rather than being driven by emotion. Seneca also taught that wealth, fame, and external success are fleeting and should not be the primary aim of life. He famously said, "Wealth is the slave of a wise man, but the master of a fool." This reflects the Stoic view that external things, whether riches, status, or possessions, are indifferent. They are not inherently good or bad, it is how we relate to them that determines their value. A person with wisdom and self-control uses wealth and material goods wisely, without becoming attached to them or allowing them to dictate their happiness. On the other hand, a person who is controlled by their desire for wealth becomes a slave to it, always craving more, never content. Self-control, then, is not just about resisting temptations or suppressing emotions, it's about freedom. The person who masters themselves is truly free because they are no longer ruled by their desires or external forces. They have the power to choose their actions and reactions based on their values and wisdom, not on fleeting impulses or societal pressures. This level of self-mastery leads to a deeper, more stable form of happiness because it is not dependent on external circumstances. One of Seneca's most profound insights on this topic is his belief that wisdom allows us to see things as they truly are, without being swayed by emotion or desire. For example, we may often fear things that are not truly harmful or crave things that do not bring real satisfaction. Seneca pointed out that much of our suffering comes from the imagination, anticipating the worst, worrying about things that haven't happened, or desiring things that ultimately bring no real fulfillment. Wisdom, combined with self-control, helps us to navigate these emotional pitfalls, allowing us to see life more clearly and make choices that lead to lasting contentment. A practical example of Seneca's advice on self-control can be seen in his thoughts on anger. He recommended that, in moments of anger, we should delay our reaction. "The greatest remedy for anger is delay," he wrote. This simple act of pausing allows us to regain control over our emotions and respond with reason rather than impulsively. By exercising this kind of self-control, we prevent anger from dictating our actions, and instead, choose responses that are in line with our values and long-term well-being. Seneca also believed that true power comes from controlling oneself rather than others. Many people, he observed, spend their lives trying to dominate or control external circumstances, seeking power over others, striving for wealth, or manipulating situations to their advantage. However, Seneca taught that the most powerful person is the one who has control over their own mind and actions. External power can be taken away, but self-mastery is enduring and leads to a deep sense of inner peace and freedom. In conclusion, Seneca's teachings on wisdom and self-control emphasize the importance of inner mastery as the foundation of a good life. True wisdom allows us to see the world clearly, without being distorted by emotions or desires, while self-control enables us to act in alignment with our values and long-term goals. Together, these qualities empower us to live with integrity, resilience, and a sense of calm, regardless of what life throws our way. Through the cultivation of wisdom and self-control, we gain the most valuable kind of power, the power over ourselves. In this chapter, we explore one of Seneca's most profound and sobering teachings, the inevitability of death and the importance of recognizing the brevity of life. Seneca, like many Stoic philosophers, believed that an awareness of death is essential to living a meaningful and purposeful life. Far from being a morbid fixation, contemplating mortality, for Seneca, was a way to encourage urgency in living well and fully. It's not about fearing death but about using the knowledge of its certainty to shape the way we approach each day. Seneca often emphasized the idea that life is long enough if you know how to live it. This statement challenges the common perception that time is always running out, or that we never have enough of it. According to Seneca, the issue isn't the length of life but how we spend our time. Many people waste their lives in trivial pursuits, distractions, or in the constant pursuit of things that don't truly matter, like fame, wealth, or social status. By squandering time in this way, we miss the opportunity to live deeply and fully in the present. One of Seneca's most memorable quotes on the subject of time is, "While we are postponing, life speeds by." He warned that many people live as if they have an unlimited supply of time, always deferring the things that truly matter, whether it's personal development, nurturing relationships, or even enjoying simple pleasures. But life, Seneca reminds us, is always moving forward. Each day that passes is one we can never recover, and by the time most people realize how much time they have wasted, it is often too late. This recognition of life's fleeting nature should motivate us to live intentionally, to focus on what truly brings meaning and joy. Seneca believed that most of our anxieties about life stem from a fear of death. People often avoid thinking about death, viewing it as something distant or abstract, but this avoidance leads to a life lived in fear and hesitation. He encouraged people to face their mortality head-on, to understand that death is a natural part of life. In fact, he saw death not as something to dread but as a liberating force, because when we fully accept that our time is limited, we begin to prioritize what is important and discard what is not. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements if it were all well invested." This powerful idea urges us to consider how we allocate our time. Are we spending it in ways that align with our values, goals, and purpose? Or are we drifting through life, distracted by the superficial and the temporary? Seneca's call to action is to be mindful of time, treating it as our most valuable resource, because once it's gone forever. A crucial part of Seneca's wisdom on mortality is his belief that true freedom comes from a readiness to die. This doesn't mean welcoming death prematurely, but rather, living in such a way that you have no fear of leaving things undone. He taught that the only way to achieve this state of readiness is to live each day as if it were your last. This doesn't imply recklessness but intentionality, a conscious effort to live in accordance with your principles, to resolve conflicts, express gratitude, and pursue what truly matters. By doing so, you eliminate the regret that so often accompanies life when we feel that we've left important things unfinished. Seneca also offers a compelling perspective on the relationship between death and time. He pointed out that most people dread the idea of death because they feel as though they haven't truly lived. They are terrified of time slipping away without having achieved enough or without having found happiness. But for the wise person, the one who lives in harmony with nature and understands the value of each moment, death is not a loss. It is simply the end of a well-lived life, and there is no need to fear it. Seneca's advice is to live so fully and intentionally that, when death comes, it does not seem like an interruption but a natural conclusion. He also famously said, "The part of life we really live is small. For all the rest of existence is not life but merely time." Here, Seneca distinguishes between mere existence and truly living. Many people may go through the motions of life, but only those who live with awareness, purpose, and gratitude can say they have truly lived. This distinction challenges us to consider how much of our time is spent passively, simply existing, and how much is spent actively engaging with life in a meaningful way. Seneca's approach to death also ties into his broader Stoic philosophy of accepting what is beyond our control. Death, after all, is the ultimate uncontrollable event. No matter how powerful, wealthy, or accomplished a person is, death will eventually come for everyone. By accepting this fact, we can free ourselves from the fear of death, which often paralyzes people and prevents them from living fully. The Stoics believed that the only things we can control are our thoughts, actions, and attitudes. Everything else, including the timing of our death, is out of our hands. This acceptance brings peace because it allows us to focus on what we can change, rather than wasting energy on what we cannot. In this chapter, Seneca's reflections on mortality are a call to live with urgency, purpose, and gratitude. He teaches us that life is not to be measured by the number of years but by the depth of our experience and the integrity with which we live. By confronting the reality of death, we are reminded that every moment is precious and that there is no time to waste. Instead of fearing the end, we should focus on making each day meaningful, so that when the end does come, we can greet it with a sense of peace, knowing that we have lived fully and well. In conclusion, facing mortality is not about succumbing to despair but about embracing life with greater intention and clarity. Seneca's wisdom on the shortness of life reminds us that time is our most valuable asset, and the only way to honor it is by living authentically, with purpose, and without fear. By making peace with death, we can finally begin to live. In this chapter, we explore one of Seneca's most powerful teachings, the role of adversity in shaping character and fostering resilience. For Seneca, challenges and hardships were not to be feared or avoided but embraced as essential aspects of life that offer profound opportunities for personal growth. He believed that it is through adversity that we are tested, refined, and ultimately strengthened. In this way, Seneca teaches us to see trials not as misfortunes but as necessary steps toward becoming our best selves. One of Seneca's most famous quotes on this subject is, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." This metaphor reflects Seneca's belief that difficulties in life serve to sharpen and polish our character. Just as a diamond is shaped through pressure, human beings are shaped through the challenges they face. Without adversity, we would not develop the strength, patience, or wisdom needed to navigate life effectively. For Seneca, trials are what make us resilient, and resilience is one of the most valuable traits we can possess. Resilience, in Seneca's philosophy, is not simply about enduring hardships but about maintaining inner peace and equanimity in the face of those hardships. The Stoic mindset encourages us to remain calm and composed regardless of external circumstances. Seneca believed that misfortune has the power to either break us or make us stronger, depending on how we respond to it. The Stoic ideal is to meet adversity with courage and composure, recognizing that suffering is an inevitable part of life, but how we interpret and respond to it is entirely within our control. Seneca's view on adversity is deeply rooted in the Stoic concept of amor fati, or the love of fate. This idea encourages us to not only accept what happens to us but to embrace it as part of our personal development. Rather than wishing for things to be different, we should see every challenge as a necessary piece of our journey, something that contributes to our growth and resilience. In this way, even the most painful experiences can be seen as valuable, because they provide us with lessons and opportunities that we wouldn't encounter otherwise. He wrote, "The bravest sight in the world is to see a great man struggling against adversity." This admiration for those who face hardship with dignity and strength is a key aspect of Seneca's philosophy. He viewed adversity as a test of character, one that reveals a person's true nature. When everything is going well, it is easy to appear virtuous or strong, but it is in moments of difficulty that our real qualities are exposed. Seneca believed that those who remain virtuous and steadfast in the face of suffering are truly admirable because they have learned to transcend the pain and chaos of external events, remaining in control of themselves. One of Seneca's most poignant reflections on adversity is that suffering often comes not from the situation itself but from how we perceive and react to it. He taught that most of the pain we experience in life is the result of our own mental and emotional responses. We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality, he said. In this way, Seneca advises us to manage our thoughts carefully, to be aware of how we amplify our own suffering by dwelling on the negative or imagining the worst outcomes. To help manage the stress and fear that often accompany adversity, Seneca advocated for the practice of premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This Stoic exercise involves mentally preparing for potential hardships by imagining them before they happen. Far from being a pessimistic outlook, this practice is intended to reduce fear and anxiety by helping us come to terms with the worst-case scenario ahead of time. When we mentally prepare for the possibility of loss, failure, or suffering, we are less likely to be overwhelmed by those experiences when they occur. Instead, we can face them with a calm mind, having already considered how we will respond. This practice also ties into Seneca's larger teaching that adversity can be used to build strength and resilience. By anticipating and mentally preparing for challenges, we develop a mindset of readiness and acceptance. This doesn't mean we wish for bad things to happen, but rather that we are prepared to face them with courage and grace when they do. In this way, adversity becomes less of a shock or a setback and more of an expected part of the human experience, something we are capable of handling with wisdom and fortitude. Another key aspect of Seneca's view on adversity is his belief that it teaches us the limits of control. Many of the hardships we face in life are beyond our control, whether they are the result of external circumstances, the actions of others, or forces of nature. According to Seneca, the Stoic must learn to differentiate between what is within our control and what is not. This understanding allows us to focus our energy on what we can change, our own thoughts, actions, and attitudes, while accepting what we cannot change with tranquility. Seneca also emphasized that adversity brings with it a kind of clarity. When life is easy, we can become complacent, distracted by comfort and convenience. But when we face hardships, we are forced to reevaluate our priorities and focus on what truly matters. Adversity strips away the superficial and reveals the core of who we are, what we value, and what we are capable of enduring. This clarity is a gift, one that allows us to live more authentically and with greater purpose. A final aspect of Seneca's teaching on adversity is his belief that it fosters empathy and connection with others. When we suffer, we gain a deeper understanding of the suffering of others. This shared experience of hardship can create bonds of compassion and solidarity, allowing us to support and uplift one another. Seneca taught that we should use our own experiences of adversity to help others, to offer guidance, comfort, and wisdom to those who are struggling. In this way, adversity not only strengthens us individually but also brings us closer to our fellow human beings. In conclusion, Seneca's wisdom on adversity teaches us that hardships are not something to be feared or avoided but embraced as an essential part of life's journey. Through adversity, we develop resilience, strength, and wisdom. It is in facing challenges that we discover our true capabilities and learn to master ourselves. Seneca's Stoic philosophy encourages us to meet adversity with courage, to accept what we cannot control, and to use our struggles as opportunities for growth and connection. By doing so, we transform suffering into strength and live with a greater sense of purpose and fulfillment. In this chapter, we delve into one of the core tenets of Stoic philosophy that Seneca emphasized repeatedly: living in harmony with nature. For the Stoics, and for Seneca in particular, living in alignment with nature meant much more than simply appreciating the natural world. It was a philosophy of life, a guiding principle that involved understanding the natural order of the universe, accepting its flow, and living according to the rational and moral principles that govern both human beings and the world around us. To Seneca, nature was not just the external environment, the mountains, rivers, and trees, but also the nature of our human existence. He believed that humans, as rational beings, are part of a larger, orderly cosmos. Our nature is defined by our capacity for reason, which sets us apart from other creatures. Living in harmony with nature, therefore, means living in accordance with reason, which involves making choices based on wisdom, virtue, and understanding, rather than on impulses, desires, or emotions. Seneca taught that nature itself is neutral, neither good nor bad, but that our judgments and reactions to it can make it seem otherwise. For instance, when misfortunes befall us, they are simply part of the natural flow of events in the world, but we often interpret them as personal injustices or tragedies. By doing so, we create unnecessary suffering for ourselves. Seneca believed that if we could learn to accept the workings of nature and adjust our attitudes to align with reality, we would experience much greater peace of mind. One of his most famous sayings encapsulates this idea: if you live in harmony with nature, you will never be poor; if you live according to what others think, you will never be rich. Living in harmony with nature also involves accepting the limitations of human life, including death. Seneca urged his readers to embrace the fact that we are mortal and that our time on earth is finite. To live in harmony with nature means to recognize that death is a natural part of life and not something to be feared. Seneca believed that many of the anxieties people experience come from a refusal to accept the natural order, particularly the inevitability of death. He encouraged people to view death not as a tragic end but as a natural and necessary conclusion to life. In this way, living in harmony with nature frees us from the fear of death and allows us to live with greater purpose and clarity. Another aspect of living in harmony with nature is recognizing that much of life is beyond our control. Seneca and the Stoics believed that external events, such as the weather, the actions of others, or global events, are not within our power to change. Instead, what we can control are our own thoughts, actions, and responses to these events. By aligning ourselves with nature, we learn to accept that some things are simply beyond our influence, and we can focus our energy on mastering what we can control, our own inner world. Seneca was also deeply concerned with the way people allow themselves to be swayed by external influences. He warned against being overly concerned with societal expectations, opinions, or the pursuit of material wealth. To live according to nature means rejecting the pressure to conform to external standards or values that are not aligned with our true nature. Seneca believed that many people are unhappy because they live their lives according to what others think, constantly chasing wealth, status, or approval. In doing so, they become disconnected from their own nature and from the simplicity and wisdom that comes with living authentically. One of the practical implications of living in harmony with nature, according to Seneca, is learning to live with simplicity and gratitude. He advocated for a life of moderation, where we are content with what we have rather than constantly striving for more. The Stoics believed that the pursuit of external goods, such as wealth, fame, or luxury, often leads to dissatisfaction because these things are fleeting and beyond our control. Instead, true wealth comes from within, from cultivating virtue, wisdom, and contentment. Seneca wrote, "Wealth is the slave of a wise man and the master of a fool." This means that a wise person is not controlled by material desires but uses wealth, if they have it, in a way that aligns with virtue and reason. On the other hand, those who are ruled by their desire for wealth become enslaved by it, always wanting more and never satisfied. Seneca's concept of living in harmony with nature also involves an appreciation for the present moment. He emphasized that the present is all we truly have because the past is gone and the future is uncertain. Many people, he argued, waste their lives by dwelling on past regrets or worrying about the future. This causes them to miss out on the richness of the present. By aligning ourselves with nature, we learn to live fully in the here and now, appreciating each moment for what it is, rather than constantly striving for something beyond our reach. Seneca believed that nature itself provides us with everything we need to live a good life, and that much of our unhappiness comes from complicating life unnecessarily. He wrote, "Until we have begun to go without them, we fail to realize how unnecessary many things are. We've been using them not because we needed them, but because we had them." This quote reflects Seneca's belief in the virtue of simplicity and the importance of stripping away excess. By focusing on what is essential and rejecting unnecessary desires, we can live a life that is more aligned with nature and, as a result, more peaceful and fulfilling. Furthermore, living in harmony with nature involves accepting the natural rhythms of life. Seneca acknowledged that life is full of ups and downs, moments of joy and moments of sorrow, successes and failures. He believed that to resist this natural ebb and flow is to cause ourselves unnecessary suffering. By embracing the full range of human experiences, the good and the bad, we can find balance and serenity. Seneca encouraged us to see hardships as opportunities for growth, rather than as obstacles to happiness. In this way, living in harmony with nature helps us develop resilience, as we learn to navigate life's challenges with grace and composure. In conclusion, Seneca's teachings on living in harmony with nature provide a roadmap for living a fulfilling and virtuous life. By aligning ourselves with the natural order, we free ourselves from the anxieties that come from resisting reality or trying to control what is beyond our power. Seneca's advice is timeless: focus on what is within your control, live simply and with gratitude, and accept life's ups and downs as part of the natural flow. In doing so, we can find peace, purpose, and contentment, knowing that we are living in accordance with both our own nature and the larger forces that govern the universe. Living in harmony with nature, then, is not only a philosophical ideal but a practical guide for achieving a life of balance, wisdom, and serenity.